Money, money, money. Money, money, money. We got that Fly Nubian money. We talk about that money. We all about that money. Money, money, money. Money, money, money. We got that Fly Nubian money. We talk about that money. We all about that money. We love our black skin. I'm melanin, always focusing in on that money. We always win, money never thin. 'Cause we hustling, always focusing in money, 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 money. We got that money, 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 money. We that Fly Nubian money. Boss talk only, we stack it up. We talk about that money. We all that money. Fly Nubian money. Fly Nubian money.
Oh, I still love it. Every time I see it, it's like seeing it for the first time. Okay, yeah. All right. Welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. Today, we're talking about a story that is going viral. It has people asking some real questions about money, loyalty, and the church. A woman took to social media after her family was allegedly charged $800 to hold her aunt's funeral at the church that she had been faithfully tithing to for over 50 years. Now, in the video, she's not just upset about the fee, she's asking a bigger question. After decades of giving, where did all that money go? 50 years, that's a long time. I could tell you where the money went. But anyways, and that's where the conversation really starts. Because some people are saying churches have real operating costs and nothing is free. Okay. While others are saying after that level of loyalty, there should be some level of care, coverage, or consideration. So today we're going to get into this. What are you actually building when you give consistently for years? And when it matters most, what are you really entitled to? Thank you to the chat for joining us on today. Tune in, let us know where you're chiming in from. And to my lovely queens that are on the panel today, hello and good morning, good evening to Nomalanga, marriage, motherhood, and money-making expert, Dr. Angeline, CEO of Melanated Neurons, Communiverse, I think that's how you say that. And then Miss Black Hollywood, Tiara Williams, Karma J, creative extraordinaire, and myself, I'm Dr. LaNée Javette. And let's talk about this, right? What's your first thoughts? First thoughts when you first just hear this story that a woman has been going to her church for 50 years, she has passed away, she's been consistently tithing, and the church wants $800 to the church, the minister, I'm not sure exactly who, they want $800 for their service, right? Dr. Angeline, let's start with you. What are your thoughts? First thought when you hear that?
When I first heard it, I was a little annoyed. Being a PK times two, and then hearing about somebody that had been serving for 55 years. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it here, but we'll talk more going more into it. But I was very annoyed.
Okay. Well, Nomalanga, what about you? When you just off the topic alone, when you hear this, what are your thoughts?
I actually have a different view. I felt like the whoever the family was left over was a little bit entitled. Tithing isn't an entitlement to be buried by where you're tithing to. So I just didn't understand what they were so mad about. Like, doesn't everybody pay 100 and doesn't everybody pay 800 if they want the church to perform the service?
There you go. That's an angle. What about you, Tiara?
From me hearing the story, I understand that there are things that needed to be there was some cost that the church basically was saying, hey, we'll handle this, we'll handle that, we'll handle this, but it's going to be $800. It's not like if you want to rent the building, it's going to be $800. If you want me to, eulogize her, it's going to be $800. That wasn't what they were saying. So I understand that at some point something is going to cost, but on the flip side, I don't know if the church itself costs, but those things to like have people come I just thought, okay, well, that's not a whole lot of money for a funeral, but I get it. I get there's a principle here that's in question.
Okay. So without hearing anything else, just the off the rip, just off the topic, like just that, I thought, I don't think people think about a church as a business, because you would not go into a bit to your stylist and say, you've been doing my hair for 15 years. Why shouldn't I get this service for free? You wouldn't say that, right? I don't think we often look at church as a business, meaning, and if we separate the tithe is what we do, what we're supposed to do for our own self. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with, because I've been doing what I'm supposed to do with the Lord, now I need you to do something for me. So that when I heard it, I was like, I don't think that they're the one and the same. But let's watch the first video and we'll dive deeper, because there's a lot to this.
Because she big man.
His wife, the deacon, the church, the whole congregation, if they had something to say. Do you understand me? So me and my cousin, we get to the church to plan, to let them know how we want to plan the service or whatnot. Now, mind you, my auntie and uncle been members of this church for over 55 years. They pay their tithes faithfully. So the pastor turns around and say, that's going to be $800. $800 for what, Pastor? He said, well, you know that in order for us to preach this service and do a nice homegoing, the church got to cook, and I got to pay my ushers to clean up, and then I got to pay some of my deacons to come. I said, you got to pay them to come to a homegoing, but your faithful members? I said, let me ask you something. Where the money at when they pay their tithes every Sunday? Where they money at when they pay for pastor anniversary? Where they money at when they pay for church anniversary? Where they money at when you did fundraisers? Where they money at whenever you did these cookings and all this extra stuff? Where they money at when you needed something for your light bill? Where they money at when you needed something for your rent? Where they money at when your mama and your daddy passed? And the last time I checked, my auntie did the cooking and my uncle was running around here trying to help get you a suit. These folks been members of your church since they was little kids, and they was watching you grow up. And you finna sit here and tell me your money hungry ass finna charge us to have a service here? I believe the hell not.
Where they at? Where they at?
Now that I've seen it, I completely feel entitled. Now, here's the thing. Right? If you've been going to a church for over 50 years, 55 years, I think she said, and you've been faithfully tithing, could the church do it? They could. But then you have to ask, the people don't realize if you do it for one, you got to do it for multiple people. If you don't set a precedence, if you don't have healthy boundaries, then you have other people coming in and they say, well, you did it for them and you didn't do it for me. You did this, but it really just sounds like entitlement. And again, this is a business. This is not just, lolly come lately. Dr. Angeline, what do you think after watching the video now?
So I'm glad I got a little more clarity, but I still feel the same. If you're a member of the church I go to, you don't pay for your services, because especially if you are a member who has tithe, paid offerings, helped out around the church, ushered, you're on some type of committee or something like that, and you're a faithful member. Absolutely not. The fact that you got to pay somebody to preach, or the pastor to preach, and the lady has been going there faithfully for 55 years and making sure that things are okay. And I could say this from a personal, I remember when my grandmother had died and the church we were going to. Let me tell you, my grandmother took care of everybody in that church and made sure that my grandfather, when she didn't have, made sure that they had what they needed. And when the one man who she helped raise even suggested that he needed to be paid, it did cause a little stir, because I was like, even myself, and I was younger, I was like, what do you mean you need to be paid? My grandmother took care of you, your family, this church, everybody. So I can understand. And to me, it wasn't even about tithes. It was the fact that she was a member of that church. 800. And I don't know nobody who pays the ushers, pays the deacons. I don't know that. That's not a commonality at any of the churches that I go to. Pay them to come serve. So that was new when I heard that too. So
I think when you put it like that, so I think that if we're talking about an active member or a member on a board, a member that has been there for some amount of time, I think that is different than just somebody who comes to the church every Sunday as a participant, opposed to an active member, meaning separate the tithes. I've given in my time. I've showed up in my time. That kind of changes things a little bit for me, but it can't be based on tithes, because the tithes, I feel like tithes don't have anything to do with whether or not we should give back. But if you've given with your time and your spirit, and you've been showing up, and you're on the board, and the minister knows you personally, maybe I feel a little bit differently. Nomalanga, what do you think after watching the video?
I think that if the auntie was an active member at that church and she had built goodwill with those people, you know that saying where they say you don't attract a bee with vinegar or something. Yeah, it's something about that. But my point is that if there was 800 to be paid, and that woman had built goodwill, you should be able to reach into that community and say, hey, everybody, 800 is needed here. And people will step up, and then her family wouldn't have to worry about that 800. Now, if you start cussing and hissing and doing all that other stuff, if I'm one of those people, I'm falling back like, oh, you know. So maybe it was a person, it sounds like, who was very actively contributing to that church, and the church body should give back. But if the pastor has, you know, a standing thing of we pay people to clean up, because it's whether you like it or not, the building is a building. It has to be maintained. It has to have electricity, water, all of these things. And if people are going to eat and all of those things, you can't get around that. And LaNée, you brought up a good point. You do it for one person, then every single weekend somebody's going to be saying, well, my grandma was here for this many years and she did this, and well, I did that, you know, and it just gets out of control. I think it could have been better handled. And I think if the church has a policy of maybe covering some costs, but you have to cover some, respect it.
Yeah. I think Nomalanga said, look, we know that I don't think the niece is going to the church. And if she was going, she probably ain't going back. She let the pastor have it. Pow. Tiara, what do you think? Well, you already saw the video, but give us your take anyways.
Yeah, I just felt like, just off the rip, him saying, you know, people have to eat, we got to cook. Like, who's gonna cook? How are they gonna pay for food? How are they gonna pay for drinks? I mean, you can spend $800 on just catering alone, and not even for the catering, just for the food. How many people are coming to? People are coming to this funeral? But those costs can just be eaten up just basically by that. So what I heard was like, assuming that we're cooking, because you didn't say, hey, we're going to bring the food in, one of the family members will clean up afterwards, or the family will have, you know, one of the nieces clean up or make sure it's clean. That kind of just like makes a difference. So him assuming that, hey, this is what we have to do, and even if it's like, you know, $50 to a deacon for his time to come on in or whatever, I mean, it's people's time. So I just think that it's important that we just understand. I don't think she needed to go off the handle about it. I feel like there's a more of a conversation that could have been had, like, okay, well, I hear you, $800, but here's what we'll do. And then, you know, just negotiation, like just figuring it out instead of just like cussing people out with the mention of money. It just feels like I don't have good conflict resolution skills is what it's given.
I feel like in listening to all this, it sounds like it's a smaller location, like a smaller town, a smaller place,
Yes.
Probably not like a mega church, or even just a church with a lot of members, maybe more modern. Because I guarantee you, Pastor Jamal Bryan is not coming to speak at your funeral for $800. I guarantee it. That would be my assumption. That's what I'm going to assume. Dr. Angeline, do you think so? Should long-term members receive certain benefits?
Long term, and it goes back to because a lot of people's names is just on the membership, but you ain't seen them in I don't know how long. So absolutely, there has to be some type of differential about who's who, who's not, and what are they doing, how are they serving. And I will say about the food comment, like I remember we paid for the food and then somebody cooked it, right? Like that type of, but I still, first of all, Jamal Bryan wouldn't have to come to my funeral out and preach nothing. I wouldn't care. Second thing is if this person has been your pastor forever, I just still I'm still stuck on that $800. And I went to a small church at one time. We didn't pay the ushers. We didn't pay, like they didn't even want to be paid, especially if you probably were part of this lady's friend. Right. So if this lady's been here for 55 years, now you need to be paid to help serve. To me, I just keep saying, then what is servanthood? What is community? What is all of these types of things? Now, if there's somebody that that wasn't doing well or down, you might slip them a little something. I understand all of that, but I'm staying right where I am with this one because I've lived it.
I mean, it sounds like $800 is like $8,000. We're like, these are, what I'm saying? That's the way it's making it seem. $800 is, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a funeral. Go ahead.
A fraction of what is
$800 might not be a lot to you. I don't know what it's like. I don't know who the family is. I don't know how much whatever, how much it is to them. I don't know any of those things. I wasn't even really looking at the amount of the money. For me, it was about the principle of what was taking place. My 55 years served, all of that kind of stuff.
A fraction of what it actually takes to bury a person. 800 is just a fraction of what it takes.
Well,
and
I'm
maybe
sure
that's
they
why she's saying
didn't do the burial and the funeral. I'm sure they had somebody else with an insurance that paid for some of that other stuff. I wasn't looking at it as the whole funeral, because the man said paying the pastor, paying the deacons, paying somebody else, the ushers. That's what he said. So everything else, I'm sure, I'm thinking, I don't know, because I don't know the whole story, but I'm thinking took care of it with her, maybe insurance or something similar to that. Right. I'm talking about what's going on in the house.
Right. Yeah.
So Walterine McLeod said families of active members usually give a love offering as a thank you. I don't know if it's a him or her. He says, this don't sound right. At what church do deacons and ushers get paid for serving? So that brings up a good point. So I know ushers and deacons don't get paid to serve, right? On Sundays, maybe on your Tuesday or Wednesday Bible study, things of that nature. But churches facilitate a lot of funerals for folks, whether it be their members or somebody else. Mm-hmm. And ushers and deacons have regular day jobs, right? Where they volunteer for their services on Sundays at church. Then should it be or is it expected that they then donate their time on the weekends to show up for funerals too? I think that, when we start thinking about the $800, like, when a deacon or somebody on the usher board says, hey, we're going to volunteer for these activities, then do you then just call them in and say, hey, we have a funeral on this day? What are the expectations around, I think, how we show up and serve when we are serving? Nomalanga, I'll start with you.
I think we do all have to think about the size of the church and what the demand is. And it sounds like maybe this was a smaller church, which means that the few people that are there, it would be a lot of demand on their time. And we're just speculating here. And I think also a lot of people are reacting without maybe not necessarily understanding. When we're talking about church, I apply biblical principles to it, and I think that's sometimes what gets lost in all this, because you don't really want to debate the word of God and stuff like that. But it still stands. There is literally a scripture that says a workman is worthy of his pay. And if they're coming to a funeral to perform a task, it's up to them to say, no, thank you, I won't take the pay. But you don't hoop and holler and get irate because people normally get paid to perform certain tasks and you just don't want to pay them because you feel like somebody tithed. And again, also it's understanding what a tithe is. A tithe isn't about paying for funerals or what have you. It's something that you do. It's supposed to be between you and God. So that's why I'm saying it's like so many things get so convoluted because maybe these are people who really maybe have never read the Bible, don't really go to church, they're just seeing it as she's been there, she's been giving, because people will say that she's been giving all her money to the church when somebody literally, and tithing is supposed to be something you do, or even any giving in church is supposed to be something you do with a cheerful heart. You want to do it. You do it because you want to do it, not because you expect anything back. So it's going to be somebody on the side saying, oh, she gave her whole life and she was always giving on all her money to them. She did it cheerfully and she was not expecting anything back. You're the one on the side making noise saying that now she deserves something or she's entitled to something, but that's not what it is.
You bring up a good point, Tiara, and I think you kind of alluded to this a little bit too. Do you think that tithing is something that is tithing supposed to come with expectations? I know that, we're supposed to give our 10%, bring it into the storehouse. And a lot of times we talk about and sing about pressed over, shaking down, and running over. We talk about abundance. We talk about yeah. So if I go to this church and I tithe for 50 plus years, does this church now owe me something?
I think that it's they don't owe you, but I think just because of the relationship is always going to prevail, right? Like there's and I just keep thinking about just recently, it might be TMI, but our choir sang at MC Light's funeral. Her mother's funeral, sorry. MC Light's mother's funeral. And nobody got paid to show up, right? It was just like nobody got paid to show up. I don't think she had to rent the church. I don't think just because she was and she was MC Light, right? I think she had to, everybody just kind of like, she's been an active member at our church and she comes, and that's kind of what happened. The choir came, but it was just like, hey guys, hey, this is what happened. Mother Constance died, who was also a member of the church, and if you could come and please perform at her, we're going to sing at her funeral. Do you want to come? Like giving the option. And of course, everybody was like, yeah, we'll come, just to make sure that we, even whether you knew her or not, whether y'all had a close relationship or not, we just all went and to support a fellow member. And I'm just using her as an example because that's the only, just as of late, that's the only person that I can think of that I've like went, and I didn't know her mother. We didn't have a relationship with that like that. I saw her at church, but I didn't know that was her mother. Like I'm not paying attention like that. But I went just to support my fellow members, right? So it's not an obligation. I'm saying all that to say that it's not an obligation, but I think if the pastor may have gone and just been like, hey, this is what happened, send out a little announcement, does anybody want to volunteer? And then giving people the option to do that.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, well, let us know what you think in the chat. We're going to keep going. We have another video that we're going to watch right now. Giving my executive producer a little time to cue it up. And then we're going to keep this conversation going because I think this is a great conversation to talk about how we look at churches and what our expectations are.
You know what? I think I'm going to go, instead of going in that direction, I'm just going to go towards the pastor talking about his perspective on how much they get paid.
Back in the 70s, and seeing how it's not one time that pastors are presented in a positive light, particularly Black pastors. And even today, like if you look at the shows on like OWN, BET, I can't even watch them because they're so toxic when it comes to, the church, but particularly pastors. And the reason why I wanted to do this video, and this is going to be a little bit longer than 90 seconds, is, and I'm going to attack this when we start the podcast a bit, but most of us, when we started ministry, most of us were making nothing or even pennies. The vast majority of pastors are not full-time. The vast majority of churches are less than 50 people. The majority of churches, that's a known stat. And even a lot of us that ended up becoming full-time, we were so underpaid when we started, but for the love of God and for the sacrifice of the mission, we did it. And a lot of people don't know that, like in your regular job, like in the marketplace, you get raises. But many times in churches, pastors don't get raises because if the church doesn't grow, the pastor or the staff can't get 3% raises or whatever the market raises are for that particular time. And so a lot of times it'll be 5, 8, 10 years where the pastor's making the same salary because the church can only afford to do a certain amount. And a lot of people really don't understand that. And because of that, what happens over time with many of us, and me included, you get behind in stuff. And when I say behind, not like your bills is not being paid, but you're getting a lot of debt over the years, and you develop really, really bad financial habits. And so it's taken my wife and I a lot of years to get out of debt. I paid off our student loans. I paid off all our credit card bills and all of that stuff. And we, and then getting to the point at a certain point in our marriage where we're now able to multiply a portfolio, just like the other people out there, based on the scriptures. I want to know well. The Bible says, know well your flocks and herds, right? Also leaving an inheritance for your children's children. So now, making living trusts for my kids instead of a will, making different investments, protecting my intellectual properties, making sure that when I die, my books, who do they go to, and make sure I have multiple life insurance policies. And all those different things. I had to get an accountant. I had to get a financial planner. And the crazy part about it that a lot of people don't know is a lot of us in ministry have never been mentored in financial literacy ourselves. And so a lot of people in ministry, a lot of times, don't understand how.
So he made some good points, and this is so not on topic, but I need him to have somebody help him with his social media and pull
the out of your face.
I can't help it. Why is the words over your face, man? Pull it down.
In your face. I know. I was like, but this is so good, so I'm gonna use
it. It was good. I was so distracted with the words. But
it proves his point too, though. He probably can't even afford a social media manager or whatever it is, and he's gonna help him. So
the business coach in me can handle it. I was like, come on, man, you messing up what you're trying to say. Just put your stuff down. Okay. Completely distracted. That's the business coach in me is like, no. But anyways, I feel what he is saying. We come from a place where we feel like pastors are supposed to be broke. Like they're not supposed to have money, as if because you are a servant, you shouldn't be able to have nice things, right?
That's biblical too.
What? Say it again.
Because that's not biblical either. Because if you're a child of God, you're promised abundance, and the pastor should be modeling that. Like, it's like so many things are so twisted, That's why I say people don't actually read their Bibles and they throw around opinions. Why is a pastor supposed to be poor? If he's a child of God and he's living and he's righteous, the riches are laid out for the righteous. There's so many Bible verses that support that a pastor should not be dirt poor. In fact, he should have so much, and so much that he can give so much. So it's actually unbiblical to expect him to be some dirt poor guy who has nothing.
Because they talk about when you don't have money, and they talk about when you do, right? Nowadays, if the pastor pulls up in a Rolls Royce or a Cadillac or any kind of car, folks immediately think, oh, he's taking the tithes money. And so they feel like they don't have to tithe because the pastor is living a good life. Dr. Angeline, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts around the financial lifestyle that ministers live or showcase to the world?
So let me just say, even with that video, I think a lot of people are calling themselves pastors. I fully believe that if God called you to pastor, you're not going to be how he describes himself. Because it doesn't align with, as Nomalanga said, it doesn't align with the word. I think I know a lot of people who say God called them, and I have to ask myself, did God call you or did you call you, right? You've been broke for 82 years pastoring, and the same thing is happening over and over. I don't have a problem with pastors living a good life or having a nice house and nice cars and all of that. The only time I have a problem with that is when I look at what does your congregation look like? What does your community look like? Who are the people that you're serving? Because I've known pastors who they told their church, you have to buy my groceries and it has to be name brand, where some of their parishioners couldn't even afford half of the groceries that they was spending money to pay for them. So I've seen a lot. But I don't have a problem with abundance. I could speak for my own self, for my own parents. When they first started pastoring, I think the first 7 to 10 years, they didn't take a salary. Because they were already in a financial position, right? And they knew that the church that they were help building, they had a nice house, they had nice cars. The church needed to be educated, the church needed to grow, and all of those kinds of things. So they refused the salary. And it was more about, how are we growing the people? How are we growing this community? How are we making an effect on this community? And so I think, again, when you're looking at it from a biblical perspective, because the guy said there's a whole lot of pastors that are broke. I have a question with that. Like, I would question that. And I don't believe that he's not telling the truth. I think that he is telling the truth. But I would have to question, like, okay, did God call you? And how long you going to keep doing this where you go into debt? Yeah. And you don't have anything for your children. And then that starts creating marital issues. It starts this whole snowball effect. And so, to me, I just don't believe that that's God. So I would have to question. But as far as all of the having nice things and all of that, I don't have an issue with it, as long as I see that your church ain't broke, can pay some of their bills, can do all of these other things, and they not all giving all their money to you and tithing unto you and raising your salary every other month and buying you a new car every year, all of that kind of
Or
stuff.
airplane, or you got ATMs in the lobby. I'm not saying no people's names. I'm just talking about some of the things that happens at various churches around the world. They ask their congregations to buy them a new jet.
Yes.
Lock the doors.
Lock the doors. I said, give me $1,000. You only gave me $200. This ain't the line for you.
Yes.
Just a couple of things. I think today, we're living in a different time today, right? Today, pastors is rock stars. Pastors is legit rock stars today, with the invention of Beyonce's internet and somebody's social media. Like, you pastors. So back up. So here in Arizona, I have been going to this church for like forever, and then my bishop passed away. I was a lost flock. And so I was like, I didn't really want to go to my church for a while. They were trying out different people. And so it was just so inconsistent. So I was like, I'm not going to go there. I got to find a new church home, but I didn't. So I got online. And so I started watching Pastor Michael Todd in Tulsa. Love that man down. Like,
love him down.
I have never, outside of my Bishop Thomas, Pastor Todd is my pastor. I have since gone back to my church, my local church home, because Pastor Todd was like, you can't be bedside Baptist forever. You need a local church home. So I do go to that church. But that's my pastor. I'm going to Tulsa for their event this year. I think I'm going to get rebaptized from there, but that's another subject. We're living in a time where pastors have huge audiences and following, way bigger than just in their doors, right? I mentioned Pastor Jamal Bryant. You have Pastor Michael Todd. You have, 1822, whatever, out in Atlanta. He's like doing amazing stuff. These ministers are becoming rock stars. And so their lifestyles are dictated by the money that they make outside of the church.
Yeah.
Their books,
yep,
their following, their brand deals, music, speaking, appearances. Should their external financial situation and lifestyle look different because they're ministers? Like, do we expect, like should our pastors and our ministers not make money or look crazy? Because I want to go back to what Dr. Angeline said, which is, if the minister externally is making good money themselves, and the church attendees and participants may not be living that same level of lifestyle, is there a disconnect? Because if the tithes that are coming in at the church might be one thing, but the money I'm making outside of the church is a completely different thing. So now I'm making a good living. So I might not even be taking a salary from the church, but I could still pull up in something fresh to death if I want to. Does that make a difference for anybody?
Well, I definitely want to answer this question only because my very pastor and first lady are in the music industry, right? I go to, it's so funny, LaNée, because I also was attending Mike Todd's church, and I saw that message when he was like, y'all got to find a local church. And I was like, fine. And I found Erica Campbell and Warren Campbell. And I love Cali worship so much. Like it, even if I just love it. I love the church. Like the minute I walked in there, I felt welcomed. I was like, okay, God, I hear you. And I just feel, and I still feel that. I feel like it's a genuine place for me to grow. But what I love about the church, that even though our first lady is part of the famous singing group Mary Mary, I don't ever feel that. But I don't feel like and Warren obviously is a super producer and all the things, like the things that they do, the Grammys that they win, all of that feels outside of the church. It just doesn't feel pretentious. It doesn't feel part of the church. It doesn't even feel like on Sunday mornings that's what it is, right? So I feel very not connected to that. But in our church in particular, there's an insurance group, there is a business directory, there is they have a somebody does like housing and lending. I think NACA came into a representative from NACA came into the church. Like there's opportunities for, and it's not like prosperity preaching. We don't spend $1 million. Nobody locks the doors. Like it just feels like you can grow here too, in your spirituality, in your finances, in your we talk about mental health a lot at church. Like it, to me, it's what church should represent. And on top of that, we give, right? What I love about transformation is that and Pastor Todd, is that they give money away. Like there's this like I love to see a church, we give money away, but I love to see like churches also bless other people and give money away. So even if you're making money, I think that is part of the law of, you're going to be blessed, right? That's the shaking up part. When you're giving so much, it has to come back to you in a way that is, that you see, that's external, right? You see that you are blessed, but we're all blessed, right? So at my church, I feel like we're all blessed in a way where we're just blessed. I don't know how to, if you in it, you contributing, you're giving, if you're I just feel very blessed to be there. That's all.
Can
You
I
know
just
what?
add to that?
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
What I loved about what you said, Tiara, because I went to a church like that where we have everybody. And all the time, most oftentimes you always hear that, oh, the church is a hospital. Come on in here. But the church should also be a college, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I hear you saying, right? It's not a place where you come and stay sick. It's a place where you grow, where you obtain knowledge, where you walk up, you change. It's about transformation from the mind, the body, and the spirit. So I love what you said about that, because that's what I always say. It's not just a hospital. It should also be a college. How are you graduating? Are you going from level to level, dimension to dimension, glory to glory? Like what is happening? Or is it just a church where it's all about money? That's the big difference. Yes. So I love that.
I love what you guys are talking about. I definitely believe and think that the church should be a place of help. When I first started my business and I left my job, it was difficult and it was hard. And I tell the story, I had $50,000. I ran out of it and I'm looking for money. I went to my church. My church paid my bills for like 3 months when I first started my business, like took care of all of my things. And then my pastor was like, hey, I want you to talk to our COO. And then the CEO met with me 3 times to help me put my business plan into place, and then introduced me to some people who helped me get my business off the ground. Like I literally went and talked to the elder who runs the church, and he was like, let me see your business plan. And he sat and he worked with me on it and things like that. So your church should be a place where you can go and get what you need, not just financial, but resources and support. Let's watch our next video, and we're going to keep this conversation going and look at some stats.
So I came across a video of a young lady talking about.
I'm going to do a story
church trauma.
time. I'm not going to call any names, but I think some of y'all don't understand the depth of what religious trauma really is. My mother passed away in 2003. She was a God-fearing woman. She lived her entire life in the church. Church was her world. church was the only life she really had outside of working and taking care of her family. She was a lifetime member of her home church. Like when I say she's one of the founding members, that's probably not a real stretch. The church ended up hiring a young, zealous, charismatic pastor. He had a vision for the church that did not match the vision of this church. Most of the members of the church were elders, and they were very grounded in their faith and their beliefs, and they were not really filling his vision. This pastor made a decision on the date of 9/11 to sit down all of the elder leaders of the church. And needless to say, my mother was in the number. He stripped her of all of her responsibilities, all of her titles, and it destroyed her. It hurt her so bad. Not long after that, my mother got very sick, and she had a series of strokes. The last stroke she had took her life. While all of this was happening, a lot of things was happening at her home church with this pastor. He made the decision to also remove my mother's name from the membership roll. When we were planning my mother's funeral, this pastor denied my family the right to have the funeral at her home church, a church that she had been a member of for at least 40 years. And while my mother lay on her cooling board at the funeral home, me and all of my siblings had to hire an attorney, stand before a judge, and get an injunction to have our mother's funeral at our own home church, because this pastor told our family, because she was not a member of the church and had not given money because she was sick, that we'd have to pay $200,000 to have her funeral there.
Dr. Angeline, I'm going straight to you.
I hate that music. Oh my God.
The music was sad and like
It was giving me like,
I was coming back to go to Nomalanga, but then when we came back, I could see Dr. Angeline. So I'm gonna come to you, Noma. I want to just get Dr. Angeline's thoughts real quick.
I don't know what kind of pastor that's a wolf. That ain't no pastor. That's a wolf. That's all I gotta say. It's a wolf. That's not a pastor at all. From what the lady said, from what she said, with the story that she's telling, that's not a pastor. His heart isn't even for the people. And then it almost broke my heart when I heard took her name off the roll and stripped her of all this. And that's an elder? Like, nah, that's not a pastor. That's not a pastor.
I immediately thought, why would you bring in a young, zealous pastor into a church of seniors? Like, you already know that there's going to be a rift. Nomalanga, how important do you think it is that the parishioners of a church and the pastor, the head, the minister over that house have alignment?
Yeah, of course, it's very important, and I agree with Dr. Angeline that that particular person doesn't deserve, really, if that's what they did, and that's what the story is. They don't even deserve to be called a pastor. They don't deserve to be leading a flock, because they're obviously not in alignment with the rest of the congregation. But that's another thing. You would think I'm a churchgoer. I don't go to church, guys, but I love God. But you think the way I'm supporting churches, because the thing is, I do believe it's part of our mandate, if you're a Christian, that you should be part of a community of believers. But we also have to look at the fact that there's human beings, and sometimes the individual behaviors attributed to the church, where you should be able to single them out and say their behavior is contradicting what the church is or what the Bible says. And that's where people get into church hurt, because the people are acting in contradiction to what a church is and what the word of God says. So that person, by my assessment is not a pastor. He's not a leader of a congregation, and certainly not the leader of a congregation of people who have invested so much and are elderly and needed to be appreciated and respected, and very, very mindfully led.
I love it. We're gonna go look at some stats before we get out of here. Americans give over 130 billion with a B annually to religious organizations. 130 billion. That's Americans, not just Black churches, Americans. The average churchgoer gives about 2 to 3% of their income, not a full 10% in tithes. Now, my mama, she give her 10% every week. Churches rely on tithing for over 70% of their operating income. That's interesting. 70% of their operating income. Okay. The average funeral in the United States costs between $7,000 and $12,000. It is expensive to send somebody to rest. $7,000 to $12,000. That's why you see folks online with their GoFundMe's, because if they don't have their insurance together, their life plan together, their estate plan together, got to get out here and we got to do better. But that's a whole nother subject. Which one of those stats is surprising to you guys? Anything surprise you guys? I'm surprised by the 70% of the operating income. I mean, I guess that's right, because how else does a church make money if not through the tithes?
Yeah.
So
the offering. I mean, that's it. That's the way churches, most churches, and we're talking about small churches, smaller churches, because I do think that represents a majority. Obviously, we've seen, LaNée, where Pastor Todd's church was this big and they didn't have any money, and things went viral online, and then the church became a household name and all of that stuff. We know the story, but like that doesn't happen for a lot of churches. It just doesn't happen that way. So they rely on those things that come in from the parishioners.
Interesting. All right, before we do our final thoughts, let me do our Black women's history for the month.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Yes. So Freedom Journal, 1827, Black women were financial voices early. In 1827, Freedom's Journal, the first Black-owned newspaper in the United States, gave Black women a voice at a time when they had almost no public platform, and they used it. They wrote about labor, wages, education, and independence. They were already pushing the idea that Black people, especially Black women, needed to build their own economic stability. What we call financial independence today, they were already talking about over 150 years ago. I love
the Black women, right? Freedom Journal. I love that Black women have always been part of we're always part of this conversation since the beginning. 150 years ago, our ancestors were sitting around talking about ways that our community can get money. And I just think that that's so dope. Shout out to the Freedom Journal.
Shout out to the Freedom Journal. Ooh, look at that journal. That's some old paper right there.
Yeah, man, that's throwback.
Yes. All right. So our final thought will be, what is the real lesson here for our community? What is the real lesson here for our community? When we hear a story like this, what do we learn from it? What do we do differently? What do we take away from it? Nomalanga, I will start with you.
Don't even give me time to think. I think the first takeaway is the original point that I made, that getting nasty and angry and all of those things isn't a community building or being part of a community type of behavior. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is, I think we have to take seriously our end of life plans or our succession plans and those kinds of things. A lot of people say they don't want to think about dying, so they don't plan and they don't want to look at it. But it's actually the most responsible thing that you can do for your family is plan for the end of your life. And it doesn't have to be lavish. It just could be a little bit of a payment to a little bit of a funeral plan or whatever it is. Because I always find GoFundMe's when somebody dies so heartbreaking that, oh my goodness, you have to now ask people when you could have just, done a little plan you could have paid a little bit into every single month. So those are really the two takeaways. Build your community, be a good standing member of your community set, so that when you need them or your family needs them, they'll step up and help you and plan for the end of your life, even if it's hard to do it, it's hard to look at. Where you can find me at the Black Business School. I have 2 courses. One of them is how to emancipate yourself from the workplace. It's called How to Fire Your Boss. I actually taught that course more than 10 years ago, and the information is still relevant. I taught it with Dr. Boyce. Then the second one is how to homeschool your children, also at the Black Business School. You can also find me on Facebook as Nomalanga Khabroni. And I also ask that you support our charity. It's an interesting thing that we're talking about this topic. I'll just quickly say that every time we decide to do an event or anything where charity is based, my family usually comes up with about 70% of what's needed, because it is what it is, right? But I do appreciate the support. And you can go to padsforourgirls.com, and every little bit counts. The smallest amount goes a long way to helping a young girl in need, so that she can get the supplies that she needs and she can not miss school.
I love it. Thank you so much, Nomalanga, as always, for being here. And Dr. Angeline, what are your final thoughts?
So I loved everything that Nomalanga said. I would also say, before getting caught up in emotions while you're going to church, ask a whole bunch of questions. Make an appointment with your pastor, his wife, whomever, and ask a whole bunch of questions about the rules, the regulations, all of those things of the house that you are thinking about joining. Do not just go run up to the altar because they sang some good songs and all. Don't get caught up in all that. Go find research, right? So that way, then you're not hit by any surprises. And even after that, you pray. Your first relationship is with God before it's with your pastor. So you pray and develop your own. I am Dr. Angeline Dean, CEO of Melanated Neurons Communiverse. I can be found at www.intersystems, INTERSYSTEMZ.rocks. Melanated Neurons Communiverse is an identity affirming STEM and STEAM mini museum in a box for 7 to 12-year-olds. And it's unapologetically, especially for our Black children.
I love that. Good job. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Carmen J, Miss Black Hollywood, Tierra Williams. That's what I got. Final thoughts.
Do you have a question? Can you ask me a question instead of asking me my final thought?
Yeah. So the question is, what is the real lesson here for our community? What do we walk away with when we hear this? We don't want people to walk away thinking that with church hurt, church trauma, thinking that the church is taking the money. What's the real lesson here?
Yeah. I think it's so important because church is such a big part of the Black community, and we rely on it. We rely on God just as a people. One thing Black people love is them some Jesus. And so I would just say that understanding that, I love what Dr. Angeline said about just making sure that you know what kind of church you are, where you are, know your community, know, where you're investing your time and your energy and the people around you. I mean, I would think that if something happened to me, I would hope that I could hold something at my church. I would hope that, like, as I'm, pouring my energy into it, I would hope that would be the situation. But I love the idea of just like having conversations. So I love that. I'm a go with Dr. Angeline on that. But in terms of insurance, because Nomalanga brought it up, but today, Fly Nubian Money Club is producing a Rise segment. And today we are going to talk to you about the insurance game, what to buy, what to skip, and what pays you back. And so today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to go ahead and share the link in the chat. It's coming right now. All right, I just shared it. Come and join us. Come and learn about insurance policies, and make sure that you are covered, your family's covered. Because to be honest, I don't think $800 is a huge ask, but I understand that there's a principle here. I don't think it's a huge ask, but if you have insurance, that $800 is we don't even have to worry about that. Everybody get what they need. The church gets what they need. The deceased get what they need, and then the family is not stressed about paying $800. So I just think that it all works together. Come see us. I can't wait to see you. I love y'all. And I'm at Miss Black Hollywood across all platforms. I was gonna say all black platforms. About
all the places.
all the places.
Even though I go last, sometimes I still don't have my final thought together. So what I would think to say in a situation like this is, while I would love for my church to volunteer to do it, my expectation is that they would charge. Like, I would presume, right? I look at it as a business, so my expectation is that they would charge. If they did not, and they said, you know what, you've been going here for a while, this and other, cool. I pay my tithes. I'm not active, meaning I'm at church on Sundays, I pay my tithe, but I don't volunteer. I'm not on a board. I don't come on to Bible study, because again, I feel like my church is in Tulsa, but I go to this church because I need to be in a room or whatever. But I would expect it, because again, it's business. That's how I would look at it. And so what I think I would say, I think my final thought here is to know what your church's boundaries, rules, regulations, whatever you want to call it, are around homegoing funeral services. That way you don't have to worry about it. Now, I get if you get in a car accident, then nothing you can do, right? You don't know. It was an accident. But just kind of being aware of the services and the resources that your church has. Now, should you find yourself in a situation where you need to get some funds and some money, then you want to make sure that you have some funds and some monies available. And a way to do that is to be in a room where financials are being discussed and talked about. Because I'm about to shamelessly plug Black Power next month in 8 next. Oh, check us out! Boop boop. You got it to fit next month.
It's not. It doesn't fit. I really want it to be wider, but it's fine.
Okay. Next month, April 25th and April 26th, we will be in Miami for Wealth Won't Miss Us. And wealth includes having the funds to pay for funeral services, right? Look, if I come up here, you can see me. And so, listen, the cruise has sold out. Say it again. We are sold out. So the cruise is done. It's a wrap. But you can still join us in Miami next month and get in a room where we're going to be talking about a 5-year CEO growth plan, profitable business model. Everybody will be leaving with 2 additional revenue streams, right? So how to make money so that you don't have to be concerned with or worried about your financials. I hate that for us as a community, that we even have to have these types of conversations when we really could have a business that could help us. So if you want to be in the room, you can go to www, or just Tara talks about me. She's like, nobody says www anymore.
I'm so old, man.
Go to
powerher.com, Jesus. Just powerher.com. Not www.
I'm pretty. Okay, I'm still old school or something. It's funny getting older because you don't even realize the things that you do that are old, right?
There we go. blackpowerher.com. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
blackpowerher.com. Get signed up, get registered. The hotel promotional rate expires tomorrow. So if you want to stay at the host hotel for the low, not the low, but for the promo price, you got to make that reservation by tomorrow. The current rate online is almost $200 higher. So get right or get left. Hope to see you guys in Miami next month. That said, at the end of the day has to end. And so at the end of the day, this isn't about telling people not to give. It's not bashing churches. It's about being intentional with your money, knowing the expectations and the boundaries of your church, the resources that your church has. Because if you've been giving for decades and still find yourself unprotected in your most vulnerable moments, you have to ask yourself, what are you really building? What are you really contributing to? Are you in the right house? All of the things. Aisha Rosie said, great show as always. Hey, Aisha, we missed you today. Hey, Deborah. Thank you to everyone who tuned in for this session on today. We love you. We appreciate you. We are here every Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern. If you text the word Queens to 87948, you can get notified when we go live. If you miss us and you want to hear us while you're driving in the car, you can go listen to us on Spotify, and also go back and watch the replay on YouTube. So there's a variety of different ways that you can find us, keep up with us, support us. Make sure you like and subscribe if you do find us on YouTube. And go out and have a blessed day today. Stay blessed. Stay in church. Just keep praying, right? Stay Black, stay beautiful, and be one. We'll see you tomorrow.